Good evening and welcome to our September board meeting. The Board of Trustees of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District is now convened in a regular meeting on Monday, September 11th, 2017 in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, 10300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas at 6 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operation of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to the items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on CFTV Channel 16 and CFTV online on the district website. They will also be rebroadcast throughout the month on Channel 16 and available as video on demand on the website. For the tape to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight and for your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. We do have one member of the Community Leadership Committee with us today, Danica Smithwick with Community Impact News. Wave and let us give you a round of applause. We appreciate all you do. I also have a Boy Scout here, Isaiah Sal with Troop 1830. He's with Cook Middle School and he's working on his citizenship and communications badge. Would you stand up, please, Sal? Thank you for coming. All right, in just a moment we will have both invocation and our presentation of colors. I'd like to go over all the names first. Our invocation will be presented by Jonathan Seiger. He is with the Congregation Jewish Community North. He also is with the Harris County Sheriff's Department, correct? Yes, ma'am. Rabbi, we're so delighted that you're here today. And then the Cypress Woods High School Junior ROTC cadets presenting the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance are Cadet Reagan Goodwin, Cadet Peyton Garcia, Cadet Caleb Liu, and Cadet Matthew Jennings. Sponsors are Major Wanda Hewing and Senior Master Sergeant Victor Miles. Would everyone please stand first for the invocation, then for the presentation of colors.
Madam President, Mr. Superintendent, thank you for having me here, esteemed members of the board and my fellow citizens. Victor Hugo once wrote that when you open the door of a schoolhouse, you close the door to a jailhouse. The work of education is inherently the work of liberation from darkness of the mind, from an inability to conceive of things larger than yourself. The possibilities and the opportunities that are created through the method of education and the efforts that we make to educate ourselves and our children, and even more so, the children of our friends and our fellow citizens, is among the holiest of work. It is tied in with the very essence of survival. Jewish tradition teaches that where there is no wisdom, there is no flour. That is to say, there's no way to work together to provide sustenance for everyone, just as at the same time, if there is no flour, if there is no basic sustenance, it is very difficult indeed to provide education, to motivate people to learn. It is in that spirit that I hope that this gathering, this meeting, might proceed, as all such gatherings and meetings may proceed, that your deliberations will be guided with friendship and honesty and trust in each other's wisdom and commitment, that the process as well as the product of the work that you do here should be guided by the highest ideals of humanity, of democracy, and of good citizenship. I ask heaven's blessing upon all of you and upon all of us, and I ask you to join me in saying amen.
Please be seated. Board member and Board Secretary Bob Covey will read the district's vision and mission statement for the benefit of the audience.
Our vision statement: learn, empower, achieve, dream, and the acronym is LEAD. Our mission statement: maximize every student's potential through rigorous and relevant learning experiences, preparing students to be 21st century global leaders.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. We'll now move to the special recognitions portion of the agenda. 1A, the superintendent will make remarks and announcements, including the honors and achievements earned by the staff and students in recent weeks. Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Madam President, trustees. We're going to do things just a little bit differently today. We're going to open with a video about Moore on Jones Elementary School, put together by our CFISD Cinema. Then I'll have a few announcements. Then we'll close with a video. So go ahead and let's run the Moore video from CFISD Cinema. Time.
As many of you know, we have a school that had to be relocated due to the storm. More elementary students will now attend classes at the former Matsky Elementary School building.
Most of our teachers lost their classrooms, everything in their classrooms, to the flood. So right here we are trying to rebuild classrooms.
At the Cypher community, our Cypher ISD family has all come together to support Moore Elementary and their teachers and students.
You just see an outpouring of generosity from people all over the community and country.
We are replacing all of our stuff. So just because of all this stuff that the community donated, we are getting a lot of our stuff back.
Oh, we just have lots of border and decor and name tags and fabric for tables, just things teachers need.
Most of this came from teachers, teachers giving to other teachers. I know a lot of our staff members even went shopping just so that they can provide brand new things for our teachers in need.
You walk outside and there's just a plethora of things that people in the community have come together to do for you, and don't ask anything in return.
Days ago, they were fearful. What am I going to do? And today there's hope. They see that. They see that I will not be alone, and we will make it, and we will take care of our kids.
It's like Hurricane Harvey hit us and brought us down, but these friends in the community of CF-ISD has brought us back up, and it's been amazing.
It's amazing to see how we've all come together and shown not just Texas, but the country, how we all can rally together and hold each other up. So yes, Cypher for all.
Welcome back, Moore Elementary.
Again, thank you, CF-ISD Cinema team, for that. For the 5th straight year in a row, Cypress-Fairbanks ISD is the largest district in Texas to have all eligible schools receive the Met Standard designation, which is the highest possible rating in the state's accountability system. More than 100 Cypress-Fairbanks ISD graduates celebrated earning scholarships valued at $447,000 at the Cy-Fair Educational Foundation 2017 scholarship reception at the Berry Center in August. The CFEF, which has awarded more than $7.5 million in scholarships to 1,600 CF-ISD graduates since its 1970 inception, welcomed families of the 105 winners to the annual event. The class of 2017 CFEF scholarships were comprised of 46 Schroeder scholarships for future Lone Star College Cy-Fair students and 59 endowed scholarships. Staff members from Cypress New Life Church visited Hoover Elementary School on August 21st to surprise the staff with the official announcement that it would enter into an adopt-a-school partnership with the neighboring CF-ISD campus. CF-ISD's adopt-a-school program pairs schools with community and business partners to utilize resources of the community to strengthen and enrich the quality of education for students. And I'm going to finish my portion of the honors and achievements with a little relief effort roundup video put together by our communications department and Joel Weckerly.
A lot of people lost their homes, need stuff that they needed, school supplies, just everything. And I felt the fact that I had everything that I needed, so why not give to those who don't?
Cy-Fairs are really good community anyway, so I knew we wouldn't have a problem with not enough volunteers or anything. But I mean, it makes me feel really special and blessed that if I was in a situation like this, that there'd be people around to help us.
I got holes in my ceiling and water on my floors. and we're just blessed to be here. We came on back after the water went down and tried to put together our lives. We needed the help. We knew the help was available, and we were blessed to be able to receive it. And it's like Christmas in August.
The school community, including our employees, our parents, our businesses, they respond in times of great need, and of course this has been probably one of the most traumatic flooding experiences in the history of the United States, and this community has stepped up big time, and the school has played a crucial role in helping meet the needs of those who have been affected by the flood, and of course our faith-based community has just been tremendous.
When this happened, we knew that we'd mobilize along with all the other churches. So yesterday, when we could finally get here, get through the roads, we started getting calls if we're taking donations, and we did.
In a matter of hours, we had 500 volunteers show up from the Cyfair community, all the neighborhoods, and most of those people were not from our church. They heard about the shelter opening up. I was getting calls from outside the state saying, "We heard you're doing a shelter," before we announced it. So the love for Cypress, our area is amazing.
I can't even describe how devastating that was. When I drove up in the parking lot, a lot of my teachers lost everything. And I said, you don't have to worry about your stuff. We're going to take care of you.
It's our heart that's in our school. It's not just an office building. It's making the transition a lot easier. And I've got people behind me that don't go to school here, aren't teachers here, and they're helping also. And it makes you realize that Cypher really is a family.
Cypher ISD, there is opportunity for all, not only to receive but also to give. Thank you, Joel and Communications, for putting that together. Again, the videos are just a little short blurb of what went on, and I know Leslie Francis back in the back here, she in a matter of hours helped organize and put together a point of distribution that served over 5,000 of our citizens, and she had a lot of great help from Jay Simpson Butler and Travis Fanning and many others. I don't want to leave anyone out, but just appreciate this community. I always say that Cyfair is the biggest small school district in the state, and we really came together. And the center of that, and I told the Lieutenant Governor that today. He was visiting our Community Leadership Committee. I said, in times like these, people show up at the school and the church because we don't have a city government, and our churches stepped up, and our faith-based community stepped up, and our school stepped up in a time of need. So I'm proud of everyone that was involved in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. Those videos were amazing. It's really, really great to see how this whole community worked together to make sure that everyone was safe and comfortable and safe as they could be in the situation that some of our residents are in. But it's very heartwarming, I think, for all of us to see the CFISD spirit. At this point, we'll go to board comments, and I'll start down on my right here. Any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any student, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this time. On this side, anyone want to speak?
I want to echo what was said in the video. I have lived in Cyfair for almost 40 years now, and being a native Houstonian, made the trek out here because of the school district. And I will tell you, I have never been so proud to be part of this school district and this community as I have since Hurricane Harvey hit. To see all of our community working together to help each other, to see our students, our coaches, our teachers going out and helping families, in some cases, take out their life's work in their house. And all I can say is that I hope that this cohesiveness and this sense of community that we feel here in the northwest part of Harris County and in the city and state, that after all the houses are put back together and lives resume some sort of normalcy, that feeling continue so that others will help their neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Mr. Ryan?
I think this is going to be a common thread of board comments tonight, but I also think that the videos that Joel and the communications staff did were awesome because it really said everything that we could possibly say up here. But to be out and see the teachers that were helping other teachers was truly inspiring, because it was somebody called and said, "Hey, is there a sign-up list that we can do to help the teachers?" And there wasn't, and there really didn't have to be one, because everybody just stepped up. And it wasn't surprising to me, because that's the way it's always been in our community. I mean, that's who Cy-Fair is. That's what we do. But it's nice to see, especially in some of the troubled times we see now in other communities, where our community could come together and just rally as one. I thought that was really remarkable. And then the other thing was one of the stories was an assistant principal, Adam, was telling me, I was a bus buddy today, so I guess I passed the background check, but was telling me that they had a sign-up sheet for dinners for the teachers at Moore. And within a couple of hours, it was filled all the way to the end of October. And I was like, that's awesome. And that really that defines Cy-Fair ISD. Like Mark said, I mean, we pretty much are the community, along with the churches that we have. And the way that our faith-based partners and also our business partners stepped up was truly inspiring. And Leslie, you guys, remarkable job. Truly remarkable. You deserve a round of applause. So I think you're amazing.
Thank you, Mr. Covey.
Yeah, they both said everything I was thinking. I'm sure that's cause of telepathy. I'm sure that's what it was. But really, that's true. That's true. I got to watch my mouth. Okay. But I also want to say that I welcome back the teachers and the administration, and especially the students. And today I was able to do the bus buddies like Don had mentioned. And, it's so great to walk through those schools and see those kids really into their learning and really participating. And I was so impressed with the attitude, which was extremely positive. And to think after what we've been through 2 weeks ago, and we've got kids in schools and they look like nothing has ever happened, at least in a couple that I saw today. But my big yell out is to the bus drivers. God love them. I'm telling you right now, that is not an easy job. And I'm just going to say, Matt, if there's any way that we can make the seats a little bit better for older people's knees, that would really be good. But I'll just tell you, the bus drivers are phenomenal, and they just do an amazing job. And Roy, I don't know how y'all develop all the different layouts of how they're going to drive and everything, but it just ran like clockwork, except ran a little late, but that's understandable. But thanks for everybody coming back and being in such a great mood.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. Dr. Ogletree?
Yes, I echo the sentiment of the board. Even though I was away out of the city when the storm hit, and just keeping up with everything that was happening with my family and the church and the district, it really made me proud to be a part of Cypress-Fairbanks community and Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. I tweeted that this community answers the question, who is my neighbor? And we love each other, we care for each other, and we rally together in times like this. And it's so good to be in a community like this where we're not divided as sometimes communities and people are. I do want to say a word too, because years ago, Don and I and others on this board took a stand for the Berry Center. And thank God we have the Berry Center in this community. It has served in so many ways, and as this district is the center of this community, 186 square miles, that Berry Center has proven to be a vital resource for our community, and we ought to be thankful that it is here, and thankful to Dr. Henry and the team for opening up and saying this is the not just the district's facility, this is the community's district, and what better use than in times of need like we experienced. I didn't ride a bus today, but I did do some labor with our church. Our church is in partnership with Cook Middle School, and we were putting together our welcome back package for our teachers, and we stuffed 120 some odd bags and loaded them up and took them to the school there, and it was so great to see them all in their Ranger jerseys and to shake some hands and hug and just say we love you, and we really want you to have a successful year. And I wish that for all the campuses, especially those who have my 7 grandchildren. We're praying for those campuses, but wish all of you a great year.
Ms. Hartley?
Okay. I just want to give a huge shout out to all the teachers who welcomed the kids today, the paras, the staff, everyone. I will say, you know, as a person who's stepping back into the classroom after a lot of years and teaching kindergarten now, like I said last week, I feel ya. I'm tired. If I slump a little up here, that's why, because I've been teaching kindergarten all day. But I was thinking in the video about those teachers who lost everything, and as a person stepping back in, I have so many needs. You know, I can't even imagine just my whole classroom being gone. So I just am so proud of everybody who stepped up and donated and gave. And I know we saw so many teachers and different people. And I was thinking on Thursday about Matski, and I think maybe some people questioned if we needed to build a new Matski. And I just thank God that was the plan. I think God knew the plan and that we would need this building for something. And so I'm very thankful that everything worked out the way it has, that we were able to build the new Matski and able to have this building available for all of these children and the staff. So thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Hartley. Mr. Jackson?
I don't have much to add to the comments of my colleagues. I would say that Ms. Blackshear and I, we did visit the Berry Center. I was amazed at the organization. I was amazed at the outpouring of support of the community, of donated items. One of the special aspects of what Ms. Francis but others did is each of our families in need were greeted by a personal shopper who gave them warm words of welcome, chatted with them, and then walked them through all the various different stations. You know, for people in need, for them to come, it is in fact a cost for them to be there. And for them to become and to be made welcome and to let them know it is okay, we are here to help, was very heartwarming. And certainly I, like everybody else on the board, we worked at our local church. Supplies came in, some cases from Arkansas, as well as San Antonio. But I was stunned at the outpouring of support from within our community. We all pitched in, but to watch everybody else pitching in as well, it was just a wonderful feeling. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody in this room, because I know everybody in this room helped and participated. So thank you. And that is who I tip my hat to, is our community for helping out.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Ms. Blackshear?
One thing I forgot to share. Today when I was doing bus buddies over at Danish Elementary, one of the students on my bus was the cutest little boy, and he was a kindergarten student, his first day of school. His name was Decory. And I was asking asking all the kids how their first day of school went, and he said, "Best day ever." And I was so excited to hear him say that. And I think that speaks of all of our students. I know I talked to my grandkids, and they echoed that sentiment. So I think while we had kind of a tough start to the school year and getting there, I think we're off to a great start.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. It is nice to finally see everyone back in school and see the buses on the road. It was a great day today. I did want to mention in the video clip we saw of, there was a short, brief part in the beginning, Up to Speed with Miss Mitzi is the part that we showed about Moore Elementary. And I want to encourage everybody to go on the website and look at that segment. It's a monthly segment, and they always go over great things and give you lots of information that helps you know more about Cyfair. So take the opportunity to check it out on the website. At this time, we will go to our citizens' participation. Patrons who have duly registered per policy BED local may address the board regarding matters of concern or interest of a district other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. I would like to remind the audience and the viewers that the comments of the speakers reflect their own positions or opinions. The board may not discuss or act upon any matter that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. Therefore, the board members may not discuss the comments of speakers. Please understand that a lack of response from board members does not indicate agreement or approval of the comments, nor disagreement or disapproval of the comments. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the board. Bob Covey, Secretary of the Board, will be the designated timekeeper. When I call your name, and we do have one speaker tonight, you'll come up to this podium here on my right. There's a set of lights there. Green means you have time. Yellow means you have to wind up because you have only 30 seconds left. And red means that you need to stop very shortly in just a sentence or two. And our one speaker tonight, George Strong, if you could come up and join us at the podium. Thank you, Mr. Strong.
Madam President and Dr. Henry, thank you for your time. I want to start off today about I helped adopt a first grade class at Moore Elementary School, Miss Black's class. She absolutely lost everything in the flood, and I helped her rebuild her class, went out, got supplies and everything, and helped her rebuild her class. And she said I was her angel and a big relief because she didn't know how she was going to do it. Another reason I came today to talk to the Board of Trustees is that, like I said, I'm a senior at Cywoods High School, and I just wanted to know exactly with the zero tolerance bullying that is around all the campuses, because ever since, well, as far back as kindergarten, but it's gotten worse in high school, and we've filed a grievance through FNG local, level 1 grievance, and the stuff that was in that grievance just is not being obeyed through at the school. And my mom and I have tried to contact you, Dr. Henry, but you're a very busy person, and we understand that. But so I felt like today was my day to come to the platform and, just bring it to the attention about, because I know I'm not the only kid. I'm probably the only one that'll come to a board meeting and stand up. But I just wanted to talk to y'all about, I really think that needs to be enforced, and I've gone through the student handbook, and it's been from where I've gotten hits on my life and, bullying and defamation of character, is what I guess you could say. And the principal at Cywood said, this is a grievance. He gave us a grievance paper and everything, but it's just not being followed. The bullying continues, and I'm happy that I'm a senior. And, last night I was kind of like, oh, great, tomorrow's the first day of school. And I was happy, but then I was kind of upset because I've always been, yay, first day of school and everything. But just the bullying, my doctor diagnosed me with something called stress reaction. It's basically from all the bullying that I've endured because she's followed me for years with everything. And so it's kind of like PTSD. So whenever I go to school, it makes me where I don't even want to go to school anymore because of the bullying. My second thing that I wanted to bring to the board's attention is that there are a lot of students who are not within this different school zones who are attending school. There's a few students that go to Cywoods who are actually in Tomball, and that's another thing I read through the student code of conduct and everything. And it says only if there's an extenuating circumstance, but that's only within the district. So those are the two things I wanted to bring up to y'all. But mainly, I really think that y'all need to talk to the campuses more about the zero tolerance bullying, because I read what it says on the district page about, this is what bullying is and everything. And I'm like, oh, well, this is what I'm going through. And then when I bring it to administrative people at Cywood to go, oh, no, that's not bullying. This is bullying. And I'm like, well, that's, what it says. But they just don't kind of want to come to an agreement on what bullying is. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. All right, we have some reports. We have a report tonight. 4A, the administration will provide a report on the 2017 STAR 3 through 8, and of course, state accountability ratings and community and student engagement ratings. And I believe Dr. Macias, you're going to start this report?
That is correct. Good evening, President Mangoya, board members, and Dr. Henry. This evening, we will present to you and the viewing audience an overview of the 2017 results, state accountability results, and the community and student engagement results. I'd like to first take a moment to thank our campus leaders, our teachers, and our curriculum team for their hard work, their dedication, and their commitment to ensuring success for all of our Cypher ISD students. The 2017 STAR assessments had significant changes. In fact, it was enough to where the Texas Education Agency shared that they would not be providing comparison data between the 2016 and the 2017 STAR data. Therefore, I shared with our campus leaders that the 2017 STAR data will serve as baseline data as we move forward from here. With that said, though, you will find throughout our presentation that although we still have work to do, our campuses performed well. And we continue to work towards the goal and the expectation that Dr. Henry has set for us to eliminate the achievement gap. Not to close it, but to eliminate the achievement gap. At this time, Dr. Ashley Claiborne will continue with the presentation.
We begin tonight by sharing with you a set of changes to the state of Texas assessments of academic readiness, also known as STAR, for the 2016-17 school year. To begin, the state reduced the number of questions on the assessments in grades 3 through 8, excluding writing. The English 1 and 2 end-of-course exams no longer contain short answer questions. Changes in the Algebra 1 curriculum were incorporated into the Algebra 1 end-of-course assessment. The STAR accommodated and the STAR with linguistic accommodations were eliminated as separate assessments. The state only provided one STAR assessment with embedded online accommodations, and accommodations policies were revised. The next change that occurred in 2016-17 focused on the STAR standards. During the September 2016 board meeting, I showed you this slide referencing 5th grade reading. in which the satisfactory passing standard, noted in red, remained the same for 4 years and began to slowly increase in 2015-16 until it reached the final recommended standard. At that time, the 3 levels of passing were named Satisfactory, Final Recommended, and Advanced. In 2016-17, the Commissioner made a change to the passing standards. Beginning with the 2016-17 school year, Commissioner Morath renamed the standards to Approaches Grade Level, which was formerly Satisfactory, Meets Grade Level, which was formerly Final Recommended, and Master's Grade Level, which was formerly Advanced. In this 5th grade reading example, the Meets and Master's Grade Level standards remain unchanged from the inception of STAR in 2011-12. The new Approaches Grade Level standard will now remain at the 2015-16 STAR standard and will no longer increase each year. Performance at the Approaches Grade Level standard does count as passing STAR. Unless things change, we will have stable passing standards in all 3 levels moving forward. Our data review begins by looking at 2017 STAR reading data for students in grades 3 through 8. You will see data for the following student groups: all, Hispanic, African American, white, and economically disadvantaged. Cyfair data are represented by the red bar, and the data for the state of Texas are represented by the gray bar. As you can see, Cyfair students outperform the state in grades 3 through 8 reading. Math scores in grades 3 through 8 were also higher than the state. Cyfair students in grades 5 and 8 were administered the STAR Science exam. These students outperformed the state in each of the student groups reflected above. Writing scores in grades 4 and 7 were also higher than the state. In grade 8, our students who took the Social Studies STAR also outperformed students across the state. Once again this year, our 5th and 8th grade students were given multiple opportunities to pass the reading and math STAR as part of the Student Success Initiative. The data before you now depict performance on the first round of STAR, the yellow bar, and then the combined performance level after the 3rd administration of STAR, which is the orange bar. Please note the performance from the 1st administration to the 3rd administration went up by 10 points for 5th grade reading, 7 points for 5th grade math, 8 points for 8th grade reading, and 12 points in 8th grade math. Now we will turn our attention to the results of the end-of-course exams in Cyfair ISD. The end-of-course data will depict results from students who took the exam for the first time in the 2016-17 school year. Cyfair data are represented by the blue bar, and the data for the state of Texas are represented by the gray bar. We begin with the English 1 results. The scores before you represent Cyfair students outperforming the state in each of the student groups noted above. Cyfair students who took the English 2 exam for the first time also outperformed the state. In Algebra 1, Cyfair students continue to outperform the state. It is important to note that a little over 37% of our 8th grade students took the Algebra 1 exam, and 99.9% of those students passed the exam. First-time testers in Cyfair also outperformed the state in biology. U.S. history data for our first-time testers also denotes performance that is above the state level. As Dr. Henry stated earlier, and again it is my pleasure to review with you, that all of our campuses earned the MET standard rating in the accountability system. Campuses and districts earn the MET standard rating based on meeting index targets in the following areas: student achievement or student progress, and closing performance gaps, and post-secondary readiness. As you can see, a campus or district could earn the MET standard rating without meeting all 4 index targets. However, in Cy-Fair, each of our campuses and the district met all 4 index targets. As part of the state accountability system, our campuses are able to earn distinction designations in the following areas: academic achievement in reading, English language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies, top 25% in student progress, top 25% in closing the performance gap, and post-secondary readiness. Each campus is assigned to a unique comparison group of 40 schools from anywhere in the state that closely match the target school. Distinctions are then awarded based on performance that is in the top quartile of the comparison group. Campuses earning 1 or more of these distinction designations met rigorous criteria to earn the highest level of recognition in the state accountability system. Noted before you now are the number of distinction designations earned district-wide in elementary, middle, and high school. We will now display the district's performance as compared to the 4 other largest districts in Texas. The first column depicts the district name, the second column the total number of students enrolled in the district, followed by the percent of economically disadvantaged students. Then you will see the 2017 district accountability rating, followed by the number and percent of campuses that met the standard and the number and percent of campuses that were rated improvement required. As you can see, again for the 5th year in a row, Cy-Fair is the largest district in the state of Texas, with all campuses meeting standard and no campuses rated improvement required. The data before you now are formatted similarly to the previous table. This table depicts the performance of Cy-Fair versus surrounding districts. Up through the 2016-17 school year, districts were required to conduct a community and student engagement evaluation. This requirement was an opportunity for districts to demonstrate areas of excellence and success, as well as recognize areas in need of improvement and set future goals. Depicted before you now are the performance measures in which we were required to evaluate ourselves. As required by law, ratings fell into one of 4 categories: exemplary, recognized, acceptable, and unacceptable. As you can see, the district as well as each campus earned exemplary or compliant ratings in each of the 9 evaluated areas. It's important to note that the 85th legislature repealed the case requirements from state statute. Beginning this year, we will no longer have the case evaluation. The board and community members may access accountability and case data by navigating to a campus webpage, clicking on About Us, and then clicking on School Ratings.
So let's talk a little bit about our next steps. As I said at the beginning, we're very proud of the work that our campuses did this past year, but we also know we still have work to do. And so moving forward, these are some of the areas that we will continue or be working on. First of all, we will continue to look at the data analysis for our districts and our campus improvement plans and be able to support campuses that need assistance. We'll continue with our monitored school plans. You might remember in the past we've talked about that although the state has a standard for meeting the standards, in Cy-Fair we have a little higher standard. And so we work to make sure that campuses who are not quite meeting the higher standard we have for them are getting the assistance and the support that they need. Very important, we will continue focusing on first-time instruction, what's actually happening in the classroom before we're looking at interventions. And that involves working with our teachers, a lot of teacher training, and again, a lot of class walkthroughs and monitoring the instruction. We will continue to focus on meeting the needs of our economically disadvantaged students. That continues to be a priority for us. And then one of the big focuses we'll continue to have this year is writing. As a state, the writing scores continue to not be where they need to be, and so we want to continue focusing on that. I'll share with you that when our data first came in and we looked to see how we could better improve our writing scores, I asked the team to look at districts around us who had similar demographics but performed better than we did. We couldn't find them. So instead what we did is we identified the campuses in Cy-Fair who had at least 85% of their economically disadvantaged students be successful on the writing test. And then we dug deeper and found the teachers at those campuses who had the 85% or higher pass rates with our economically disadvantaged kids. And then we invited them to a focus group meeting. And so we've had two. We're planning to have a third one. Is that correct, Mary? Planning to have a third one with these teachers to learn about what they did differently in their classes. What did they do to maybe change the scope and sequence a little bit, or to change the content, or to add to the curriculum? What is it that they did that made a difference with their economically disadvantaged students? And then we're going to use that in training with our teachers. So we continue to look for different ways and think of different innovations to be able to find ways to support our students. At this time, if you have any questions, we will be more than happy to entertain them and answer them.
Dr. Macias and Dr. Claiborne, thank you very much for an excellent report. Do we have any questions? Mr. Jackson?
One of my colleagues inferred that the length of this meeting would be attributable to myself, and I certainly do not want to disappoint anybody tonight. As it relates to comparative data, you've already indicated that it's not comparative for us to go back to last year, and that's true for the entire state of Texas. However, if you compare us to the state average, that data should still be somewhat comparable, even though the testing has changed. And so my question is, has the delta increase between our scores and those scores of the state, has that delta remained constant, increased, or decreased?
We did not review those data specifically for this meeting, but we can definitely put that together and provide that information to you.
If you would, please. Last year, I know that both my colleague, Trustee Ogletree, and I requested a little more disaggregation of data. Certainly that's not necessarily appropriate for this meeting, but the intent was to drill down and see, did we have any differences of consequence, breaking it out by gender, by the subgroups. Mm-hmm. And certainly I can't speak for John, but at least for myself, when I asked the question last year, I indicated I didn't expect you all to do it for last year, but to consider it for this year, and I think we would, at least for myself, I would still like to see if that data is a consequence. You mentioned that approaches grade level is the old satisfactory tagline. Would you remind us what the definition of what satisfactory and/or approaches grade level is from the TEA?
Yes, the state defines approaches grade level as performance that indicates the students are likely to succeed in the next grade or course with targeted academic intervention. Students in this category generally demonstrate the ability to apply the assessed knowledge and skills in familiar contexts.
So a key phrase of what I gleaned out of that is these students are expected to be successful at the next grade level. Is that correct?
Yes, they're likely to be successful.
Thank you. You know, with the tagline of approaches, it would suggest there's a deficiency, but if by the state's definition we expect our students to be successful at the next level, I find the label a little misleading, at least for myself and perhaps for parents as well. You noted that for Algebra 1, and we have always succeeded at very high levels in this area. I wanted to repeat what I wrote down to make certain I heard it correctly. Did you indicate that 99% of our Algebra 1 students eventually passed the exam?
I indicated that 99.9% of our 8th grade students who took the Algebra 1 exam passed.
That's amazing. So kudos to all of our Algebra 1 teachers, but also the principals that they work for. In the past, the percentage of our 8th graders taking Algebra 1 was also significantly higher than the state. Is that still the same this year, or is it more the same approximate percentage takes the...
Cyfair had right around 37% of our 8th graders take the Algebra 1 exam, and the state had right around 22%. So their 22% holding steady from last year, and our 37 as well.
So we have more than 50% of our students taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade than the state does. Isn't it true generally that as you increase the population taking a test, you expect test scores to decline?
Yes.
Once again, Mark, this district is doing something very phenomenal. And this district has been doing it as long as I've been a trustee, and even before when I was on the CLC looking at these numbers. So it's just very, very impressive. Is the mastery standard, is that particularly meaningful if the approaches standard says these students will be successful at the next grade level? Does the
Yes.
mastery standard tell us something of import?
The mastery standard, let me tell you how the state defines that. They define that as performance at this level indicates the students are expected to succeed in the next grade or course with little or no academic intervention. Students in this category demonstrate the ability to think critically and apply the assessed knowledge and skills in varied contexts, both familiar and unfamiliar. So yes, it's very critical that students reach that level, and our campuses are working on that.
Very good, thank you. I do have one question as it relates to the impact of Harvey on these, but I think that's coming up on the agenda again, so I'll hold that question until then. Thank you, excellent report. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Ms. Hartley?
Yes, and I do sometimes talk to Tom about his questions, but inevitably he asks one that I always want to hear. So, because about the 3 different levels, I was curious what that master's one. I mean, it just seems like there's 3 different levels that you can pass the test, and so what are the differences? So that master's was very helpful.
Right, that's the highest level of performance.
Okay, and then I just was noticing how great we're doing with the algebra and the biology and the U.S. history and all those specific areas. I mean, we just really are excelling, and everybody's doing such a great job. I did think about one of the conference meetings we attended at Nationals. It broke the data down. What they were looking at in their groups when the numbers were a little bit lower were they broke it down to boys versus girls, and they did look at that, and they found that there were pockets of their district where they needed to boost up males, in certain areas, and then females in certain areas. And so, I'm just I would be curious if that's something we've thought about looking at, and if it's an area, you know.
I do know that some of our campuses do look at some of that data. We really haven't broken it up at the district level, but we can certainly do that.
I'm just curious.
And we can send that to you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Hartley. Dr. Ogletree?
Yes, I was going to suggest that, Linda. I think any disaggregation that we can do, especially as it relates to trying to close this gap and really trying to look at the students that really we need to target, and I believe it will hold true about the gender thing, the males and our district, especially in that grade level with African American students. So I'd look like for you you all to try that.
We will do that. We'll break it up by the different target groups.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. Mr. Ryan?
Hey, Ashley. How you doing? That's a good report.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that you guys, I mean, y'all could drive this thing to where it could be like 100 pages. We're just getting the skin and bones of it, pretty much.
Yes.
And we did when y'all did the comparison in all of these, it was in the approaches category. And if I was to look at the meets and the masters, are we a lot higher than the state in those levels, or how do we measure up in those areas?
I would venture to say, without looking at every category with every student group, that we are higher than the state, and we can put that together for you along with the data on the male and females, because we are seeing increases in those areas across time. So that would be something that we could definitely put together for you.
Well, and if I'm sure, I guess let me go a little bit further, because I don't want y'all to just sit here and do countless reports. Is that something to where if let's say the principal at Lampkin, did they have all of that, and is that driving what they're doing on that campus to where they know we have this many students in the master's level and we'd like to get at the master's level to this number next year? Is that,
yes.
Is that, I think the community that's something the community would like to know. I don't think y'all need to sit here and just, bake a cake in all these different ways. I don't really want that. But I think the community would like to know if we're taking this and then using that on my child's campus.
Absolutely. The campuses set targets for each year, and in fact, their targets are not just set for the approaches grade level, but they're set also for the higher levels as well, such as the meets grade level. So we're not just sticking to let's make sure everybody reaches the approaches level. We are reaching towards the higher levels, and that is something that we talk to the campuses regularly about, and that they set targets on.
Okay, great. Because oftentimes when we do these reports and we do the comparisons, some of the feedback that you hear in the community is, well, yeah, we're just working on that bottom level, and it's like, no, we're truly addressing every student that's in the classroom. We're not just focusing on one subgroup. So thank you for sharing that. That's all I had. I didn't do a good job of asking that question, but that's all I had. I just put there.
Mr. Covey?
Ashley, again, awesome report. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the distinction designations.
Yes, sir.
And you stated that we are compared to 40 schools that are compared to our elementary or each of our schools across the state of Texas, which that's amazing. They can pull 40 that are identical to.
Not identical.
Okay, compared. Okay.
Yes, sir. Comparative.
All right, I misused the word. Excuse me. But there was a couple of things over the past number of years that have come up, and I guess my first question is, this distinction designation, is that basically a pound your chest thing, or is this something that TEA looks at with a great discernment whether or not you're meeting any of those? Can you kind of explain how that
Sure.
applies?
Our former commissioner, Commissioner Williams, noted that anytime a campus earns at least one distinction designation, that is a great achievement. And I like to think about it as an ice cream cone, where passing the tests, meeting all the index targets, that's your ice cream cone, your basis, and the distinction designations are the cherry on the top. So our campuses, every single campus met standard. They hit the highest accountability rating, and then we have campuses that also earn that cherry on the top, which is the distinction designation.
And when you look, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I believe as a district, we had 217, is that correct, Ashley?
Yes.
We had 217 distinction designations, even with all the different changes that our campuses met this past year.
Well, I guess one of the things, and I've heard the commissioner talk about the distinctions before, and I guess one of the things that comes to mind and makes me leery of how important this is, and it is important, I'm not saying it's not, but when you take a district and you're trying to close the achievement gap, and let's take Highland Park, for example, that's 99% Anglo, and I think they scored an F on closing the achievement gap because there was no gap. And so that's kind of a misnomer as to exactly what you're accomplishing. And we've talked about this over the years in that, of course, we're unfortunate that the state keeps changing the tests we take, although we've been on the STAR for 5 years now, but they kept changing the levels that we were meeting, so it's almost like a new test. But we talked about this and wondered if, in fact, sometimes the achievement gap stays relatively the same. And is it because all of our kids are progressing and we haven't closed the gap? In other words, maybe the Anglos are progressing and then the Hispanics are, and the African American, and so that gap's still there. But do you understand what I'm trying to get at? It's like everybody's getting smarter at the same time, possibly. And so I have a concern that we don't have real information on whether or not we're closing that gap. And I'd love to be able to see that, as our superintendent says, done away with altogether. But I also think that our kids are getting smarter. I'm talking about my grandkids, and those kids are smarter than I ever was at that age, you know. So it's amazing what they're being taught right now. And I think the commissioner made the comment that they found some old archives of, I think it was 1983 or 84, test results from junior, and it was a math test, and the same thing's being taught in 4th grade now, and that was 1983. Now it may not be quite as complex, but it's the same theories and same applications. So it's amazing what we've gotten to, and I probably just talked away. Tom feels comfortable that he's not the longest tonight.
Bob, thank you.
Actually, I kind of agree with Don about the master's level and the meets grade level. I'd like to see those numbers as well, and even on all 3 categories, I would like to see where we were last year, so or the last time we received those numbers, so we can know that we are moving upward and improving rather than maybe sliding down in an area.
Ms. Blackshear, we certainly can get data for you, but as I shared at the beginning, we can get you last year's data and put this year's data.
So we can compare
but
it?
it's not going to give you correct information.
Okay.
Because there's quite a bit of difference. That's why the state
testing.
typically gives us a comparison, and they didn't this year because there's so
Okay.
many changes.
Okay.
And that's why this year we shared with the campuses, okay, as you heard from Dr. Claiborne, there seems to be a little stability moving forward with the testing. So now this is the 17 data will be our baseline, and we will
Okay.
move forward now. And the next year, we will have a
So
comparison for
going
you
forward,
again.
we will be
Yes,
able
ma'am.
to measure it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
I'll even bring a little controversy in tonight. I'm such a geek, I actually read the CIP before every campus visit, but I always take a look at where our campuses compare in the peer group. So I would disagree, Bob. I think the distinctions are in fact significant. I know when I spoke with Mike before him becoming commissioner, he was always intrigued about what we were doing here in Cy-Fair. He knew who we were even though we didn't know who he was. But if you take a look at the distinctions and the pages there on the website, you'll see all 40 schools that is considered to be your peer group. And you can go to TEA and see how that peer group was identified. So we aren't taking Highland Park and comparing it against, say, Cy Ridge. So if you take a look at Cy Ridge, it's being compared against other high schools with similar demographics, which I find to be very significant. So when Holbrook came in with all distinctions, but I'll also indicate that Langham Creek came in with all distinctions. These are, in fact, significant achievements. And I don't think Commissioner Morath would disagree with that. And certainly he indicated he didn't quite use the same phraseology as Commissioner Williams, but something very similar to that. So he sees that as being valuable. Certainly Commissioner Williams last year was very vocal and indicated that distinctions needed to be part of the overall evaluative package in the A through F category. It didn't happen, but he believed in that concept so strongly that he voiced support for that with the legislature. But I encourage all of our parents, if they're interested, is to take a look at who the peer group is. And as I point out when I visit the campuses, you take a look at that peer group, every one of those schools receives more money than our campus does, and in some case, it's as much as $800 more per child. And the only meaningful comparison you can have is with a peer group large enough to make that comparison that is similar to you. So I would say the distinctions are in fact of significant consequence. I don't know how the state legislature regards them, but I know for myself, I look at those as being significant achievements by our campuses and by our teachers involved. Thank you.
Tom, maybe I misspoke because I wasn't trying to compare Highland Park to one of our schools. I was just showing that a school that is as successful as Highland Park would score an F on the A through F rating just because their gap was not improved from the last year. So that's basically what I was referring to on that. And I do agree. I think they're important, but I think there are a lot of people out there that don't understand what the distinctions are specifically. And so it's kind of hard for our constituents and from our parents, and I'm talking about my kids and their children. They don't really understand what the distinctions are in their schools. So that's why I was bringing that up. Anyway.
I think Dr. Henry wants to add a few comments as well.
Just a couple of quick comments I wanted to make, and I want this board to know that not only me, but Linda and the entire district, we're not satisfied till every student is successful. So you see percentages on here, and you say, "Oh, that's great, that's better than the state," but those are real young people. Even the small percentage we have that didn't pass. And so all of those students are important to us. And even though all of our campuses met TEA standard, they don't necessarily meet the CFISD standard, and we monitor those schools. So we have monitored schools every year, even though they're meeting the state standard, because we want to see that go higher, because it's not just a percentage. It's a child, it's a student, so we want to see them be successful. And then the last thing I would say is, one of the things I'm proud of is, I always said GM makes cars and we make graduates. And you start looking at our end of course exams, and you see how high those scores are, and that translates into 8,000 plus graduates every year. We have a very, very high success rate with students that have been in our district for a few years. In fact, we will almost guarantee you that if you start in Cy-Fair, you're going to graduate, because we are going to find the gaps that each student has by the time they graduate. So those end of course exams are always some of the first that I look at, because that translates into real high school graduate, which is again is what we do. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. Very impressive results, and thank you for a great report, both Dr. Macias and Dr. Claiborne. Any other questions? I'd like to take a short break at this time, be back in about 5 to 7 minutes. anybody in the tech. We're going to go ahead and get started if everyone can find their seats. I got you. If you'll find your seats, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to move to the action item part of our meeting today. During the course of the Committee of the Whole meeting, it was the consensus of the board that the following action items be approved as submitted or amended. 5A, the board will consider approving the tax refunds of $500 or greater for Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. And B, the board will consider approving the minutes of the August 14th, 2017 regular meeting. And then on Thursday, we moved some additional items to the consensus agenda. And that would be 6A. The board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. 1, acoustical shells for 9 high schools. 3, beverages, concession, and catering for Berry Center, Pridgeon Stadium, and CFISD Natatorium. 4, college readiness and career interest test. 5, contracted educational services and professional development services. 6, district fundraiser services. 7, grocery goods and supplies. 8, HVAC parts and supplies. 9, insulation services. 10, plumbing fixtures, parts and supplies. 11, restaurant catering and delivery services. 12, roof repair. 13, spirit apparel and promotional items. 14, video security surveillance system camera upgrade. And then we also moved D, the board will consider approving construction proposals and contracts paid from bond funds to the recommended contractors and authorizing the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contracts as follows. 1, 2017 district-wide security vestibules project, vestibule construction. 2, 2017 district-wide security vestibules project, card access and hardware installation. F, the board will consider approving on first reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policy. 1, CJ Local, contracted services, that's an addition. G, the board will consider approving on second reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. 1, BDAA Local, officers and officials, duties and requirements of the board officers, and a revision. 2, EF Local, instructional resources, that's an addition. 3, EFA Local, instructional resources, instructional materials, that is a deletion. 4, EFAA Local, instructional resources, selection and adoption. 5, EHDB Local, alternative methods for earning credit, credit by examination with prior instruction, that's a revision. C, EIF Local, academic achievement, graduation, that's a revision. And 7, EL Local, campus charters, that's a revision. Those are all of our consensus items. If any board member wishes to remove one or more items for further discussion, please do so at this time.
Any further discussions after we make a motion, or do we got to do it now? Okay.
Well, we typically, from consensus, we don't. We can. Do you want to have some discussion?
Yeah, if it's okay.
All right. Let's have a motion first, okay?
Okay. I move that all the consensus items that have been read be approved as amended, or however way we did it.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. May I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Hartley. Mr. Kobe, you have a discussion point?
I do. And Dr. Macias, I'm only going to ask you to do this because in case people didn't watch Thursday evening, I would like for you to explain again the college readiness and the career interest test that we do for all of our students. Could you kind of give us a brief one on that, please?
We do the ACT Aspire for our 10th graders, and it's free for all of our parents. And then we do the ACT for 11th graders. That's the college entrance test. And that also does not cost our parents any money. The ACT Aspire is an interest test. It gives us information about what the child might be interested in. They're able to use that information to make some adjustments with their 4-year plans if they choose to do that. Mary shared that by taking that test, they also learn and get information from colleges that may specialize in fields that they're interested in. So it does provide a lot of information. It also gets us ready for dual credit courses because they do have to have a college and career readiness marker, not only for the dual credit courses, but actually the former House Bill 5 required that we had a college marker, and that's what our ACT does as well.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on that item? Mr. Jackson?
A question that Bob generally asks every year, but he didn't ask this year, so I'll ask him for our viewing audience. This does not prevent any of our students from taking the PSAT and attempting to qualify for National Merit Scholarships. Is that correct?
Absolutely not. Our students can certainly take that.
And we really have not seen any diminution in the number of our National Merit Scholars over the years, even though we've made this change, right?
It's been pretty consistent with our National Merit Scholars. We had 1 year that we took a dip, but other than that, it's very consistent.
Thank you.
Dr. Ogletree?
And I believe, Linda, did you also say that this test is more in line with our curriculum and guidelines?
It definitely is. It's more in line with content for the different subject areas, yes.
All right. We've had a motion and we've had a second. We've also had some discussion. Any further discussion?
Is it okay if we take it off consent and move it?
No, we don't have to do that because we did have the
You said we're okay. All right.
Yeah. All those that approve of this motion, please raise your right hand. Motion is unanimous. Let's move on to our non-consensus. 6A, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item to assorted beverages and food. And Ms. Blackshaw, I believe you want to make a statement about that?
Yes, Ms. Mingoya, I will be abstaining from the vote as one of my sons is employed by one of the companies awarded a contract.
All right. May I have a motion on this item? Yes. A2.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the assorted beverages and food contract.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. Any discussion on this item? All those that approve, please raise your right hand. Please let the record show that Ms. Blackshaw did not. She abstained, and it was unanimous with the other board members. All right. B, the board will consider adopting an order authorizing the issuance of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District variable rate unlimited tax school building bonds, which may be issued in one or more series in accordance with the specified parameters and enacting other provisions relating thereto. May I have a motion?
Madam President, I move that the board adopt an order authorizing the issuance of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building Bonds, Series 2017, levying a tax and providing for the security and payment thereof, providing for the award of the sale thereof in accordance with the specified parameters, authorizing the execution and delivery of a purchase contract, and paying agent or registrar an agreement relating to such bonds, approving the preparation of an official statement, and enacting other provisions relating thereunto.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Blackshaw?
Discussion?
Yes, there will be discussion. Mr. Jackson?
Stuart, if you would, and I would remind the viewing audience that we did discuss this at the last meeting, but one question that we did not bring up. Jim Kramer said today that there is a flight by bond investors into safety and a flight into U.S. Treasuries. What does this mean for the interest rate environment that we're getting ready to go into with the sale of these bonds?
That's a good question, and that is true that there seems to be a flight to more safe investment vehicles. I think that the municipal and the treasury markets have been a little volatile lately, due primarily to state and geopolitical issues such as tensions regarding North Korea, in Washington, tax reform delay, and certainly the Hurricane Harvey and its effect and impact on the Southeast. So those actions are actually driving the interest rates down somewhat. The municipal markets are still historically at low rates, and the municipal MMD 30-year bond closed last week on Friday at 2.68%. The bonds that we're selling, these variable rate bonds that we're selling, will be sold in three separate principal amounts. Each, they're styled 2017 A1, A2, and A3, and each will have three separate initial rate periods. Current modeling right now that we're looking at on a preliminary basis is that they would be 1, 2, and 3 year initial rate periods. And so the MMD, 1 year MMD that closed on Friday was 0.77%. The MMD 2 year MMD was 0.85%, if I recall. And the 3 year MMD was just south of 1%. So I think the interest rates environment is looking very good, still historically very low, and the municipal bond market demand is very strong in Texas.
Excellent answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion on this item? We've had a motion and a second, and we've also had discussion. All those that are approved, please raise your right hand. Let the record show that's unanimous. C, the board will consider the 2017 tax rate resolution to support the 2017-18 maintenance and operations and debt service budgets by setting the 2017 M&O and interest and sinking tax rates. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Ms. Blackshear?
I move that the board adopt the 2017 tax rate resolution to support the 2017-2018 maintenance and operations and debt service budgets by setting the 2017 M&O and interest and sinking tax rates at $1.04 and 40 cents respectively.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. May I have a second? Mr. Covey seconds. Are there any discussions or comments on this item? I would point out that we're going to keep the same tax rate as the last 4 years, and that is down from 5 years ago by a penny. Motion has been made. There's been a second. There's been no discussion. All those that approve, please raise your right hand. Let the record show that that is unanimous as well. Bringing us to item number E, the board will consider approving the 2017-18 Cypress-Fairbanks ISD Student Code of Conduct. Are we having a presentation on that?
We did.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the 2017-2018 Cypress-Fairbanks ISD Student Code of Conduct.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. May I have a second? Ms. Hartley, thank you very much. Any discussion on this topic? This end? Any discussion? No discussion. There's been a motion and a second, so all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. All right, we had a training scheduled for this evening, but because we had to postpone the start of the school year until today, we're going to have that training in October, and I've actually talked to all board members and everyone is available, even though it's a little bit of a stretch because it's a long training on October 9th. So we'll be having that on October 9th, and we have let our facilitator know. I'd like to go to the addendum and discuss that before we have the superintendent's briefing. Is that okay with everyone? All right. So we did have quite a lengthy report. Well, we had two items on the agenda from Thursday. 9B, the board will discuss the opportunity for Bob Covey to attend the TASB lobbying day in Washington, D.C. And we did have quite a good discussion on that. I'd like to see a motion on that, please. Oh, it's discussion. That's right. I'm so sorry. Sorry about that. And we did decide that it was very much worth our while to have a few expenses for that trip in the range of about $1,500, because Bob has continued to build great relationships with our Washington delegation, and that's beneficial to all of us here. A was another discussion item, and we had quite a lengthy report on how we could open today and our facilities, transportation, and school start date. And I got to tell you that it went very, very well. But we reserve the right to have a little bit more questions and comments today. So are there any additional questions that we need to talk about today? Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, Madam President. Just following up on last Thursday, and for the viewing audience, I would recommend to you take a look at Thursday night. We had a robust board meeting. And it was, at least in my opinion, probably one of the better board meetings and very insightful, as it should have been given what happened. First, we had concern as to the ability of employees being able to make it in to work for our schools. Roy, do you have any information, any update on how we did on that score?
Yes, sir. I think overall it was exceptional staff attendance. I can share with you that the percentages of those staff members present today, they range at the elementary level. I believe that the lowest was 95.6% of staff members were present, and went all the way up to 99.2%. And you see the same thing at the middle school and high school as well. Actually, if you look at the highest number of absences at any one campus, at the elementary level, we had 4 absent at that campus, and at the middle school 5, and at the high school 9. So even with those being the highest number of absences we had there, that 9, for example, still 97% of the staff are present today.
Certainly, our community is continuing to deal with the aftermath of Harvey, but I think this is exemplary of the employees of this district saying that they will step up and do what needs to be done for our students here. A second observation, we missed 9 days of instruction, which will stay in my mind probably for the rest of this year. And we know that the impact of a very traumatic effect has a decided impact on student achievement and student attainment. Mark, if you would, kind of sketch out what your thoughts are. Do we expect this to be done in September and everything will be back to normal?
No, sir, and I'll let Dr. Macias give you some specifics, because the state of Texas, as you know, Mr. Jackson, is no longer set up in the number of days you attend, but the number of minutes that you attend. So if you don't mind, I'm going to let Linda just talk about the number of minutes that we offer, and then I'll add some additional information if needed.
I guess to make it just easy and short, we are in our instructional calendar. We have more minutes than the minimum that is required. We actually have 915 more minutes than the 75,600 that is required. And even with the 9 missed days of instruction, we still have more minutes than the state requires as the minimum for instruction.
So that says even, and let me repeat what Linda said, even though we're missing 9 full days of instruction, we will still meet the minimum required by the state of Texas, and we will have more than what the minimum requirement is.
That's correct.
That is correct.
Do we have any thinking at this time to deal with protracted impact of Harvey upon our staff or students?
Well, the statement that I've made to reporters or anyone else who's asked me, this is not a 2-week event. This is a full 2017-18 event. I fully expect, and I just feel confident that Mr. Snow is going to provide funding for any additional tutoring that we may need in the spring. I knew that'd wake him up over there. Additional funding always wakes him up. But there may be some additional required remediation throughout the year to make sure our students master what we expect them to master. I really don't expect any type of accountability waiver from the state, and I don't even know that we would ask for that. I think we're grateful. I think the commissioner has stepped up. I think our state leaders have stepped up, and in fact, the lieutenant governor said today in a meeting he had here with us that he's going to make sure, and he feels confident, everyone agrees with him, that there won't be any loss of funding because of any fluctuations that you may have in attendance this year. So we're not going to use that as an excuse. We're going to do whatever's necessary to make sure that when you compare next year's results with this year's results, that we're going to incrementally improve, even with the loss of time.
Excellent. I like that spirit. I guess the next question is a follow-up with Roy. Roy, as you pointed out, with every major event, we always learn something new and something different. If you would, please identify how it was that we had initially picked a start date and then we changed the start date. What was different? And then secondly, do you plan to have a debrief and a review of how we responded, and what do you see, if any, as a means to respond at a higher effectiveness level in the future?
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. In terms of your first question, is basically what happened was we were getting some late notifications from MUD districts, and we really didn't get them directly from the MUD districts. And I advised Dr. Henry of the situation we were dealing with. Several MUDs had issues with their wastewater treatment plants being flooded and non-operational, and they were sending notifications out to their residents indicating that they could not use their facilities. And so we were obviously concerned. As I mentioned on Thursday night, we actually immediately implemented a backup plan and started locating some portable restroom facilities to help us address that issue, so we would have adequate facilities for our students and staff when they return. We then received additional information through principals that they received information from parents that indicated there was another several districts that were in the same trouble. And so when I advised Dr. Henry that we were looking at up to 8 facilities at that time that could potentially have the same impact that we had at Horn and Truett. And then based on that information, that's when it was decided that it would be best to delay the school opening to give us time to shake those issues out and make sure that we had our facilities adequate for our students and our staff to return. The second question is, yes, after any one of these events, after Hurricane Ike as well as the tax day flood in 2016, we've regrouped our team, figured out what worked well, what did not work so well, what did we learn from the event, and how can we improve our processes. And we'll be doing the same thing. In fact, I'll be meeting with my staff tomorrow morning and starting those discussions, and then we'll bring all our directors in as well for further discussions to determine what worked well and how can we improve things. Typically in these events, based on the 3 majors I've dealt with in my career here at Cy-Fair, is communications. It's always a communication issue when you get into a crisis like this. And our biggest communication issue this go-round was with the MUD districts, or the lack thereof, and where the MUD was not really notifying the district directly. So we're going to do some research, and we're going to come up with a better plan to make sure that we have more contact information. And when we have a named storm like we had in this case, we'll make our efforts to contact those individual MUD districts
and make sure we have the correct information so that we can be able to get accurate data from them and know who to contact so we can make our decisions better and quicker.
Thank you for an excellent answer. Just to repeat something you said, there were as many as 8 different schools that were operationally impinged as a result of the impact of Harvey upon wastewater treatment plants.
That's correct, and then we eliminated one right away because it turned out to be a power issue.
You and I actually did chat about this offline. I would suggest to you that when you pull together your point of contact, each of those MUDs are publicly elected officials. And certainly each one has a president. And I know when I served as a president, I received all kinds of communication as well. And I think it's only appropriate that my prior colleagues should receive any concerns that we might have in that regard. When I served, we actually served the needs of 3 different schools. And after going through one hurricane, as a board, we took steps to make certain that we contacted each of those 3 schools should there ever be a power outage impacting either deliverability of potable water or handling of effluent. And I would certainly hope that all of my prior colleagues in the 80-some-odd districts would be more than willing to do the same thing. I know it's standard operating procedure to do that as it relates to any hospitals that happen to be in there. Thank you for an answer. Thank you also for you and your team, for those of y'all who were not here Thursday, the efforts that y'all took, one, to mitigate the damage prior to the storm coming in, but your response immediately thereafter was truly exemplary.
Thank you.
So my questions notwithstanding, y'all did a superb job, so thank you. That concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Dr. Ogletree?
Dr. Henry, I know you're just raring to give your closing briefing, but the question I have as a result of Harvey, the new phenomena that we've been experiencing in our district with transients or homelessness with students, are we going to keep up with that data that possibly will increase as a result of Harvey? Or are we alert or even concerned about that, and how will we deal with those students?
Yes, and Dr. Stewart can probably give a better answer than I can, or a more complete answer. I would say that although we had some initial maybe issues related to transportation of students who are displaced in other districts, we're working very closely with our neighboring districts now to work out a plan to where we have agreements where we go pick up students and they take them home, or vice versa. So we're working on that group of students who are displaced at this time or who are considered homeless. And then Deborah, do you want to give some more information about shelters?
Absolutely. So currently we have one shelter that's still operating in the district, and we're working very closely with the principals and registrars at the campus. There is to identify those students who may be displaced or homeless. So currently we have approximately 200 students that we can identify that have either been, they're here from another district, or they're in our district but at a different school. So we're working with them with counseling services, curriculum and instruction, and definitely transportation. Initially, when we talked about transportation, we were receiving information that all of the surrounding districts were going to have a difficult time with infrastructure and transporting these students. But since then, we've learned that we're all trying. You know, Katie has contacted us, HISD has contacted us, so we're working with transportation to get those students to their schools of origin if they choose. The identifying of a homeless student is a process. So generally we may have 2 or 3 a month, but to have 200 on day one is quite different for us. There's an interview process, so we're working as quickly as we can to get those families in to determine whether or not they're homeless or displaced. With that process comes, if they choose, transportation to their campus of origin, and many other types of support services, counseling services, free lunch, pre-K. So it's more than just transportation, and we have to take our time and talk to each and every one of those families to find out specifically what they need. So we're reaching out to them. We are sending principals a daily update. We're having a stop, look, and review meeting every day. We had ours at 2:30 today to find out where are we, where are the students, and if there's any additional things that we need to support them. I guess I went a little longer than, it sounded like Roy, didn't I?
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? I do encourage everyone in the public to look at the Thursday meeting, because we had quite an extensive discussion on this topic with lots of detail. Dr. Henry, do you want to say a few things?
Just two quick things. I promise, Don. It's just two real quick things here about number one. And I know Tom knows this, and I know Roy knows this. We have a wonderful relationship with almost 100% of our MUDs. It's a great partnership. They support our students, not only by volunteering, but also by donating and helping. So I really appreciate the MUDs that we have in this district. They're very supportive of what we do. This was just an unprecedented event that I'm not sure the MUDs or the school district knew exactly how to handle, but we think everything from here on out will be less traumatic than this event, or at least we hope so. But I just wanted to throw that in, that we've got a great relationship with our MUDs, and we appreciate all they do for our students. And then the first day of school, the one word I wait for, and Roy sent it to me, texted it to me about 45 minutes ago, or maybe it might have been an hour and 45 minutes ago, I don't remember, but in transportation, all kids are home safely today. So that's the word I wait for on the first day of school.
I know we think about that a lot.
Yeah.
All right, that does bring us to our last item on the agenda, the superintendent's briefing. So, Dr. Henry?
Thank you, Madam President, trustees. The 5th Annual CFISD Back to School Expo served more than 4,300 patrons and guests at the Berry Center in August, giving all a one-stop shop for resources for incoming students, parents, and prospective employees. The total attendance figure was greater than any year, as was the nearly 600 students who enrolled for the 2017-18 school year. The expo also provided 178 athletic physicals from Houston Methodist Willowbrook Hospital and 320 vision screenings. In addition, immunizations were administered by the Harris Health System. Walmart Neighborhood Market gave away 1,500 pounds of fresh fruit and 1,600 packed school supply kits valued at $1,200. And all the final donation amount amounted to approximately $12,200. Great! It was a great community effort that day and served a lot of our young people. Families, caregivers, charities, and research groups across the United States observe September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Over 15,000 children under the age of 21 are diagnosed with cancer every year. Approximately 1/4 of them will not survive the disease. The objective of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month is to put a spotlight on the types of cancer that largely affect children, survivorship issues, and most importantly, to help raise funds for research and family support. Help us bring awareness of childhood cancer to the community by wearing gold during the month of September. More than 40 CFISD business partners showed support for the district by participating in the Business Partner Expo at the CFISD Annual Leadership Conference and the New Staff Orientation at the Berry Center in August. The New Staff Orientation introduced nearly 1,100 new staff members to CFISD. The Business Partner Expo allowed business and community leaders to share information about their respective companies and organizations while offering free items, discounts, and incentives to district staff members. The Cy-Fair Federal Credit Union provided tote bags for all the participants. Then finally, the Cy-Fair Educational Foundation will host the 20th Annual Salute to the Stars Gala on October 19th at the Berry Center. The Black Tie celebratory event will honor 88 CFISD Spotlight teachers from the 2016-17 school year, one from each district campus. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. And that does conclude our meeting, and we will see everybody in October. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.